Hello, my friends. We're going to talk about the new moon in Aquarius. And, I'm going to add in a little bit of extra Aquarian energy because it's really important because this new moon in Aquarius that's on January 21st at 1 degree of Aquarius is quite significant because we've had some movement through that area at the beginning of the pandemic, March 2020. And pretty soon, Pluto is going to come through there. So it is incredibly significant at this new moon that we have coming up. When it comes up, pay attention. Make sure you give yourself some space and some time to be aware of what's going on around you. I'm going to talk about some national things, and in just a minute with this forecast, some national things and what we can focus on in our own world, and to use this new moon in Aquarius in a very useful and productive way, and what we might be able to, what we might see as well in the world around us. So I'm going to share the screen, and if you're new, while I'm getting that all set up, if you're new to my channel, welcome. Let's get that screen up. There we go. Move my face out of the way. Oh, thank you for joining us. And if this is your first time here, well, if you like it, hit subscribe. That'd be awesome. And this full forecast is not word for word for what I say here, because here I wing it. When I write the forecast, it's on my blog. You go to my website, you join the newsletter email list, and I will send it right to your inbox, or you can just go to the website and read it too. It's usually around 1,000 words. It gives you the details. So if I talk too fast, because I tend to talk fast, I'm a Gemini, then but you can slow me down here on YouTube. If it's on YouTube, you can slow me down. All right, let's get started. So I want to talk about this new moon in Aquarius, but we're going to do it in a way that, yeah, let me grab this. There we go. I'm going to do it in the sense that I want to talk a little bit about what is really going on before we even get to the new moon, because the new moon is with us for a couple of days, and then it starts a lunar phase. And I talk about this a lot in my forecast, but it's called the lunar gestation cycle, and that goes on for 3 years. So every 9 months we have something else that's near the same place any new moon began. And that aside, I want to talk about some of the Aquarian energy that precedes what's going on with this new moon. So here, the new moon in Aquarius, we the people, that's how I really want to start this off, because this new moon on January 21st, it's at 3:53 p.m. Eastern time. There's so many things we can talk about this, because we're going to talk about the qualities of Aquarius. And a lot of them have to do with politics and government. Now, I'm not going to get overly specific with that, but I am going to talk about some of it. And then when I move through this forecast over just the next few minutes, I'll talk about the generalizing of it and what it means for everybody. And then I will also give us some thoughts and ideas on how we can use this in our own lives personally. Okay. So I hope that works out for you too. And yeah, so let's get started. So with this new moon in Aquarius, the qualities of this, Aquarius is represented by, here's some of the things that are really on our minds right now, and that's Congress. That's the House of Representatives. That's our government. It's the collective, right? That's why we start this off saying, we the people, we the people. That is such an Aquarius statement, if ever there was one. And so what's been going on in our country here in the United States, of course, there's a lot of disruptions all over the world in the structure of government and those foundations, right? So it's been going on for a while, but here in the United States, we just finished having just a bunch of stuff that shows how incompetent, I have to say this out loud, how it's just been, things are so dysfunctional. I wouldn't say incompetent, but dysfunctional the way things are running. House of Representatives, Congress, most of the energies, most of the branches of our government these days, in the last few years, we've really been able to see how functional or how dysfunctional they are, because I really believe that a lot of them as a whole are very detached from what the people want. And we get to see that. And so that is why I'm starting off with this, and I'm not asking anyone to debate me, because I will not. It's just not the point of this. This is my opinion and my forum. But I believe that, but that's Aquarius energy too. The Aquarius energy is represented very poorly in the way that we've been seeing it so far, okay? And I mean, you can look at other ways and you're going to see how it's uplifting and things, but we get to choose. And that's my point about focusing on something that is not working well and how dysfunctional it is, and what we'll be doing over the number of years to come as to how we're setting up our structure and our foundations based off of what's good for, collectively what's good. So you always have choices on how you want to use the energies that any one of us astrologers are telling you about. You get to choose how, excuse me, you want to use it. Good or bad, it doesn't matter. You get to choose it. And if somebody says something that feels super negative to you, then just find a way to turn that around. And again, I gave you this insight, and you can read it on the website too. So the sun and the moon have just entered the sign of Aquarius, but Saturn's been in there for the last 2 years, and that was a big game changer. It entered more than 2 years, honestly, because we're getting close to 3 years now. Saturn entered the sign of Aquarius in March of 2020, and then later in 2020, Jupiter entered Aquarius, and that really stirred up. You know what happened then? We had a lot of freedoms taken from us, a lot of things, structures, everything, a lot of things have broken down, right? The governments all over the world put up these rules and regulations, took away freedoms to keep people safe. And so all of these things really have turned the world on its head. And so we've been working on that for a couple of years. However, later in this year, in March of 2023, Pluto's going to enter Aquarius, and it's going to go back and forth in Aquarius like 3 times, I believe, until November of 2024, when it will stay in Aquarius for another 19 years, for a total of 20 years in the sign of Aquarius. That's the bigger picture. That's the bigger picture. I know I'm supposed to talk about the new moon in Aquarius, which is just for a couple of days. However, we do want to see that bigger picture, because where this new moon is coming on, or is, depending on when you see this, January 21st, it's in a place of, very early in Aquarius, that is going to be where Pluto comes to. We've already seen when Saturn was there a couple of years ago, and Jupiter as well in 2020, how that shook things up. Okay, I'm not saying we're going back to pandemic living, but I'm just saying what was stirred up at that point in time. We are still working through the energies of that. And when Pluto gets to that point this year in March, it's from March to June, then it pops into Capricorn, comes back in, and goes in and out for a year and a half. So it's this new moon, while it's just a short, mild thing, and it's not overly mild, but it's just a short happening, it's going to stir that up. So what do you want to do? How do we want to work with this? Because these are the things that we need to focus on, And so it's politics in the big picture, and it's humanitarian causes and efforts that we need to do. There's just so many things that are always going on in the world, but this is the time that it comes to our attention, when planets are in the sign of Aquarius, which is what we have right now. And again, when Pluto gets there, there'll be even more attention to that. All right. So this new moon in Aquarius on January 21st, it's your opportunity. Let's bring this back to something more personal. Your opportunity to set some goals based off of what you believe and things that you want to grow, and where you're willing to step out of your comfort zone. Aquarius qualities, break away from the status quo and engage in progressive thinking and creating action, taking action, so you're able to create forward movement, get out of your rut, get out of your stale old energy, right? So during the new moon, what we need to do is, well, actually, let's talk about before the new moon here. Let's, I'm going to wiggle the chart. Here we go. Just before we have the new moon, right, for a couple of days, the moon is balsamic. So as the moon is in a balsamic phase, and even the sun conjunct Pluto, the moon conjunct Pluto, and then we'll have the new moon. So for a couple of days before January 21st, when we're in that final lunar phase, we have the sun and the moon connecting with Pluto in Capricorn. So we're tying up a lot of Capricorn loose ends. It is astounding how much we're having to tie up before we get to this new moon. We've just finished Mars retrograde. That was on the 12th. Mercury will be finishing its retrograde on the 18th of January. And then we have the new moon here on the 21st, and then Uranus on the 22nd will be direct. So between the time I post this, which is mid-January, between that and the new moon, and just after the new moon, there are so many shifts astrologically. And again, right here before this new moon, when the moon and the sun connect with Pluto and Capricorn, there's a lot of things that we are finishing up, tying up, ending, releasing, and letting go during the balsamic lunar phase. That's what we should be doing. During that balsamic lunar phase is the time where we should be slowing down, distilling information, giving ourselves a break, right? Reviving yourself, spending time relaxing and resting. Yeah, we really should. This is when we just need to take a back seat to everything and get as much rest and relaxation as we can. And to clear the deck, we've got to make space for what's new. So if you are making a new, if you are doing the new moon fork, the new moon rituals, etc., then we need to move forward into that. We need to take this balsamic lunar phase and rest and purify yourself to create the space. Otherwise, there's no room for new stuff to come in. All right. And we have that opportunity, like I just mentioned, when the sun and the moon come through and make their connections to Pluto. All right. That's on the 18th is when the sun conjuncts Pluto, January 18th. And then the moon will come through and the moon will conjunct Pluto. Where is that? Here it is, at like 11 a.m. Eastern, just before the new moon. But the moon will still be in Capricorn. So we have this opportunity for a few days before this new moon. So that's why I'm putting up a little bit early for me. An opportunity to allow the things that have just built up for such a long time to clear out, just like water built up. You know how calcium builds up in certain areas, maybe around your sink and in the bathtub, whatever, that water, and you have to it's hard as a rock and you have to chisel that off to make everything nice and clean. That's where we're at. And if that doesn't make sense, I don't know. You know what I'm saying. I hope you do. I hope you do. So now we can always, when it comes to our new moon intentions, right? It's super important. I recommend we write things down in a journal, write those new moon intentions or goals in a journal. Personally, I feel instead of like being super specific, which you can be, I personally do not do super specific things. I put things in a sense that how am I feeling? What am I focusing on these days? And how do I want that to move forward? However, this one I will. This one I will because Aquarius also rules, if you didn't know that, it rules groups that you're interested in, new events and groups. I haven't been in a group or part of a group. I ran groups for years. Pandemic stopped that, right? And I was burnt out then anyway. So I've had 3 years of a break like most. And, Aquarius rules astrology. So maybe it's time for me to start my astrology group back up again. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I'm feeling it. Doesn't mean I'll do it. It does take a lot of volunteer time. But that's Aquarius too, volunteering, enjoying yourself, doing something that you love, that other people like. So as individuals, we come together. And that's the important piece of this. So we get to manifest and focus on what it is that we want in our lives, right? So whether you decide to get into local politics or you decide how you want to serve humanity. I used to cook at a homeless shelter, and that is, a way to work with disenfranchised people as well. That's Aquarius. Anything that has a spin to it that feels like, you're making a difference as one person, but for the greater good. So that's a piece of what we can set up for new moon goals and wishes and those intentions. And as well, the things that are important for you, as well as, how you want to feel how you want to get into this, a new pace, a new energy, a new group, raise your vibration. This is what we get. We're in that Aquarian age now. Who knows really when it actually begins, but once Pluto gets in there, especially for good, which is November 2024, I mean, we really are in an age of Aquarian age where it is about, working towards what's good for you, but then also for your associates and those people that you feel a connection to, right? So this is great. So the whole planet, we're all in this big reset. And I mean, I'm not trying to smile about that. It's important though, but we're in this big, massive reset right now. And it's our individual responsibility to raise your vibration, find a way to contribute to the collective, find a way to do something new, creative, and inventive, of course, in a very unique and different way. Now, there's always so much more. I didn't even talk about technology, because that is definitely going to be going through a big boom over the number of years. However, this isn't a major forecast for that, even though I have touched on years to come. Bringing it back to now, bringing it back to January 21st in this new moon Aquarius, all we have to do is just take one step towards something that we want, as opposed to sitting there and looking at it from the outside. And that is one of the most simplest ways to use this new moon in Aquarius. And again, there's always so much more. I'm going to leave us with that. Thank you guys so much. And there's always tons of extra content every single week over on Patreon if you would like to come and support me over there. And this does go, just so level one knows here on Patreon as well, this does go onto YouTube. Patreon gets it first, and then it goes on to YouTube. All right. Yay. That's just how it works. Blessings, everybody. Namaste.